Yo, what's up, your boy Ghost here, and today I'm bringing us a little Warzone 3 video, and today we're particularly new top 5 class setups after the Season 3 update. A lot of crazy things just got changed in these patch notes, including Modern Warfare 2 weapons, which is an interesting direction that they're going in, but I appreciate it because it doesn't forget like half the weapons that we have in our classes to pick. They're actually paying attention to some of them, despite some people may feel like it's gonna get a little repetitive. But I enjoy the fact that we're gonna have a couple weapons now that'll be different from what we've been using, especially from the old game, just to throw into the mix. But with that being said, let's get into the first weapon. And for our first weapon, we have the Holger 556. This is a hill that I'm going to die on. I briefly mentioned this, or I mentioned this in my last video, that I figured this gun was potentially going to be the new meta come into Season 3, specifically because I knew that the Ram 7 was going to get nerfed, and it did. It got significantly nerfed. But I also figured that they were going to try to take out all the other weapons that were already kind of considered the competition to the Ram 7, like the Bruin. That guy got nerfed. MDC 762 got nerfed again. Bass B even got nerfed again. So there's a lot of things that already got taken out coming into the season, allowing for a weapon like the Holger 556 to potentially now slide into it. Now, nothing specifically happened to this weapon. Where this is just going off the buffs that it received in Season 2, which, if you guys know, this gun actually became really good with those buffs, and it just kind of got forgotten because the Ram 7 completely took over. Now, that's not to say that the Ram 7 still won't be good. That gun has survived so many nerfs that it could be very well possible that despite it getting nerfed significantly again, it's still going to be meta. Now, I will say, though, aside from all those weapons, there is another weapon that got buffed in these patch notes that could see a return to meta, which would be really interesting, and I'll get to it in a second, but I just want to know that, I want you guys to know that this weapon right here is going to be, in my opinion, one of the options to potentially take over the meta. I'm not going to go out and say that it's going to be the meta just because of what has changed in these patch notes, but look out for this weapon, use it. You already know what the deal is with this gun, and I'm excited to see what comes out of it. But with that being said, let's move on to the next weapon. And for our next weapon, we have a familiar face. We have the HRM. I know, it sucks to see it here again, but I gotta be honest, man. I don't know what their approach is with this weapon. In the patch notes, it feels like they are content with where it's at. I personally believe that in its state right now, it's still obviously a top 3 SMG, top 2 SMG, really right behind the Ram 9, or even above the Ram 9. The only reason I would say it's behind the Ram 9 right now, because in the middle of the season, if you guys noticed, the Ram 9 kind of took over slightly. I feel like it became more of a double Ram meta rather than like a Ram 7 and an HRM. The HRM was still used a lot, don't get me wrong, but the double Ram meta, especially Resurgence and Rank, that's what really felt prominent. And I think that's the only reason why the HRM potentially didn't get nerfed to what it needed. Because if you look at the patch notes, the one gun that got nerfed significantly in the SMG category was a weapon that I don't know where it came from, but they decided to completely nerf the AMR9, which why, man? Like, that was one of my favorite SMGs. I felt like it competed really well with the top SMGs, and they just hit it with the big fat nerf. And it's not even meta. Like, I don't remember the last time that gun was really talked about. I rarely see it in my games. That's not to say that it's not a good weapon. It's a really good weapon, but it just got hit with a stray for no reason. And you let a gun like the HRM get away with it freely. The only thing they nerfed on this gun was increasing the sprint to fire time, which is like, that's not really that big of a deal. Like, I mean, to an extent it is, but like compared to damage and the range, the damage, like, bro, the AR-9 got hit for no reason, and it makes me upset. I'm not gonna lie. And it allows for this weapon to kind of just remain on top, and I would not be surprised if for another season we see this weapon come out on top and take over the spot that it probably lost to the Ram 9 like second half of the season too. But hey man, let me know what you guys think about this. I actually want to know how you guys feel about the HRM potentially coming back, because based off the patch notes, I have no reason to believe this gun's gonna get kicked out of any type of meta because nothing really changed for it. It's still basically the same weapon that we had last season. So, hey man, I want to know your thoughts though. But with that being said, let's move on to the next weapon. And for our next weapon, this may seem like a stretch to some of you guys. I personally don't think it's that far of a reach, just because I think they might be setting the foundation here to bring in MW2 weapons to compete with the MW3 ones. Now, the MW2 weapons obviously have been here the entire season, or the entire year, but they just haven't felt like that competitive to the MW3 ones, or for most people, they just don't feel like there's anything that spectacular to them to be using them over the MW3 ones. And I think this season they're kind of trying to address that. They buffed a ton of MW2 weapons, including this one. I think this is the one that got buffed the most. And that's why I put it here, because I do think with the buff that they gave it and everything that's up in the air right now with the nerfs that occurred, this gun could actually be meta. Um, it would maybe fit the role of the Holger. It could be better than the Holger right now, which is kind of interesting. But curious to see where it ends up, because it's actually funny that in season 3 last year, I believe it was season 3 last year, they buffed the Lightning 5.6. It became meta, and now here we are again in season 3 with it getting buffed, and it can become meta again, a returning meta. And I'm not against it. I actually enjoy this weapon a lot. I'd be curious to see if it actually holds into that meta spot. And I guess we're gonna have to wait and see. We're gonna have to wait and see. I'm definitely gonna be using it though, so hopefully this buff did some good things to it. And maybe it sets what's it called? It just sets the new direction for these people, for the devs, I guess, to buff more MW2 weapons. So curious to see where it goes from here. But yeah, man. With that being said, let's move on to the next weapon. And for our next weapon, we have the Wasp 9. Now, this could get a little interesting for the SMG category. I think the Wasp 9 could potentially see some run in that meta spot. If I had to assume, though, it'd probably be the HRM or even the new SMG that's coming out in this update. But the Wasp 9 is still a solid competitor. Didn't really get hurt in the patch notes, just like the HRM. I'm still just really shocked at the fact that the AMR 9 out of all weapons got nerfed significantly. And it hurts me because like I really felt like if the Ram 9 got nerfed, then we could have been talking about HRM slash AMR 9 meta, but that's not gonna happen. And this new SMG is gonna be a little bit interesting as well. Curious to see where it fits in, because typically when they add these weapons, most of the time I feel like they come into the meta, or they're pretty good, or they're good enough to be into the meta. Like the Ram 9 came in, we had that happen. The HRM came in, we had it meta. So more than likely, an SMG that's coming in will probably be a top gun. But if it's not, look for the Wasp 9, look for the HRM. I think those guns are going to be the ones to potentially round out the new meta. Or if the Ram 9's nerf didn't do much because it's a Ram and they, for whatever reason, don't know how to handle Rams, then the Ram 9 is gonna maybe take over again. But like I said, I'm going off the assumption that these nerfs really did work, and if the Ram 9 got significantly weaker, I can't see it being better than some of these current SMGs right now. But I guess like I said, we're gonna have to use these weapons, wait and see, and curious to see how this top 5 ages in the next week. But with that being said, let's get into the last weapon. And for our last weapon, we have the BP-50, which may seem like a reach for some of you guys. It was brought to my attention recently that some people actually think this weapon is not that good. I personally disagree. I think this weapon's really solid. From my experience with it, I think it's a potential replacement for the Ram. In general, just the Ram 2.0. And since this weapon is being catered more towards the resurgent small maps now, I felt like it was an appropriate time to put this weapon in the top 5. For me personally, like I said, I have a lot of success with it, so I would definitely enjoy using this gun as my primary AR. I kind of do already. This is my go-to right now. It was my go-to in Season 2 when I was using an SMG, and so this was my go-to AR. And I would have put an LMG in here because there were some good changes to LMGs, but right now I feel like the way this game is being catered to and the focus really just is on the small maps now, and it's going to be Rebirth this season. So I like LMGs aren't bad in the small maps. I've made it work. A lot of people have made it work, but I just take a look at the Bruin from last season. It became meta for a brief amount of time, and then it just got kind of just forgotten, or just the Ram 7 got picked over it, and it was just like no LMG necessarily got to change to the point where it was so broken that you have to use it. It definitely got buffed. Some of them got a little better. MW2 ones especially got a little better, but they're slow. And if you competed with a gun like this in certain ranges, it's just not gonna win. So that's what I have to take into account. That's why I put a weapon like this in it, where I feel like it's like a Ram 2.0. And yeah, man. But with that being said, if you guys did enjoy this video, please hit a like button and hit that subscribe button if you're new. Hopefully this class setups help you get your dubs in Rebirth, because it's it's out now. It's hopefully gonna be a fun season with the new Rebirth edition and with the Bout 27 coming later. I can't wait for that gun. But like I said, man, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys later. I'm out. Peace.